Welcome to the Year 11 BTEC Tech Award 2022 Final Revision PowerPoint. This PowerPoint offers exam technique tips for the January 2024 exam onwards. Component 3, the first exam will be sat on the 10th of January 2024 at 1:30 in the afternoon. The exam is 2 hours and the marks are 60, and this actually counts for 40% for your final grade. Actually, if you have a look at it, unless you have extra time, you can work on 2 minutes a mark. This PowerPoint will be using the sample assessment material provided by Pearson. For this exam, it's recommended that you take highlighters into the exam so that you can underline key points and bring in at least 2 black pens. Using the sample assessment materials provided by Pearson, I will be looking at how they have created the paper. Looking at the beginning of the paper, they all tend to be short answer questions. They're worth between 1 and 4 marks each, and they usually begin with one of the following command words: identify, state or give, and explain. So the identify questions are usually multiple choice. Looking at the sample assessment materials, there may be 1 or 2 multiple choice questions. So for identify questions, you need to pick out the correct information. You really need to read the information carefully. Some questions may ask for 1 answer and others may ask for 2. So really have a look to see how many they are asking you to identify. In the example of this question, it says identify 1 lifestyle factor that can affect health and well-being. So I would suggest to students that they actually look through. First of all, read the question, understand it's about lifestyle factors, and actually mentally start crossing out the ones that you definitely know it is not. And then, if they've worked it down, say perhaps 1 or 2, then they can start to think about what the actual answer is. Next, we have the state and give questions. These are usually worth 1 or 2 marks. They're not asking you to write a paragraph here. It's a short sentence for each mark in the question. Examples are from one of the sample assessment materials below, such as state 2 negative effects that mental ill health can have on health and well-being. Pay attention to how many negative effects it is after. It is also worth highlighting negative because lots of students will tend to put positive or negative unless they actually underline the negative. It tells you how many answers that you will need to give. The second question says, give 1 positive effect that having a clean and tidy house to live in can have on the physical health of an individual. So again, they're not asking for a huge paragraph. There's 1 mark up for grab on the second one. So they need to just write some information that isn't going to take them all day. Looking at the fact that if you have a nice, clean, tidy house, there's less chance of a trip or a fall, or there's less chance of dust, which can cause respiratory conditions. We now move on to explain questions. Now, this is a little bit different because you're going to have to give a linked explanation. They can be worth 2 or 4 marks. If you have a look at the sample assessment materials, there's plenty of examples of 2 and 4 markers. The marks always come in pairs. To answer a 2-mark explain question, you firstly need to give a point that answers the question to get the first mark. Then you need to back it up by explaining it to get the second mark. For example, if you said cystic fibrosis can cause an individual to have difficulty breathing, that would be equivalent to 1 mark. But in order to get the 2 marks, you need to add a further explanation. For example, cystic fibrosis can cause an individual to have difficulty breathing as mucus restricts the airways, and that would be worthy of 2 marks. We now move on to 4-mark questions. This is exactly the same, and it follows exactly the same process as answering a explain question for a 2-marker, except you do it twice. So you've got to read through the questions and answer as fully as you can. What I suggest you do is you have a look at this question, explain 2 positive effects that having supportive relationships or friends could have on the health and well-being. Stop the PowerPoint and have a go at answering it. You need to state 2 points on how on positive effects and expand that further. It is an explain question, so you need to say why each is positive and they should be linked. Spend 8 minutes, which is what you would be entitled to in the exam, on this question. Here is an example of answering a 4-mark question, the same one as on the previous slide. This example would secure 4 marks. There are 2 positive effects and both of these have been expanded appropriately and they are linked to the positive effect. For example, one positive effect of having a supportive relationship is that you could feel valued. This could be because you're accepted by your peers. So the positive effect has been stated and then it's been expanded and it links. Another positive effect of having a supportive relationships is that it can make you feel happy because you have people to celebrate, go out with and make memories with. Again, 2 marks. A positive effect has been stated and then it's been expanded on and it's linked. This will get you the 4 marks. So have a look at this slide. How many marks would you award? Have a look at the following answers. Answer A and answer B. So answer A states they could feel valued. It could make them feel happy and this could make them happier. B, having a positive and supportive relationship can improve a person's self-esteem as you have people to rely on difficult times when you need them to support you. And having positive relationships can make you feel less stressed. How many marks would you give for answer A and answer B? My answers are on the following slide. So my answer would be answer A would only be worth 2 marks. The answer has been correctly identified. They have said 2 effects of positive relationships, but there are no linked explanations. In fact, if you look at the second one, it says in the second part of answer A, it says happy and then it just makes you happier. So it's repeating itself. It's not expanding, it's just repeating the same content. And then with answer B, I would have awarded 3 marks. So the answer has correctly identified 2 effects of positive relationships, but there is only 1 linked explanation, and that is on the first answer. So key points to remember in the short questions. Read the question twice. Check whether they're after positive or negative, or they're focusing on particular pies. So are they asking you about positive, intellectual, emotional, or social? Highlight it so you don't make the mistake of getting the wrong pies or negative or positive. When you are asked for a correct classification, you need to identify what group someone with that BMI range fits into, i.e. are they underweight, are they healthy, are they overweight? Really revise this. As we continue through the exam, we will come across case study questions. You will be given specific information about an individual person, and your answer will need to be focused on their specific circumstances. For example, with the sample assessment material that Pearson provided, Leroy, we have here, who works from home in IT, must be available to customers at different times of the day and night. He has a physical disability that causes weakness on his left side, affecting his arm and leg. He lives alone on the 5th floor of a large building. The healthcare assistant suggests that Leroy does some physical activity every day. You are being asked to discuss how Leroy's circumstances could affect his ability to do more exercise, how he can be more physically active. So first of all, start off with highlighting all the key points in the scenario. Anything that you feel might impact the individual's health and well-being. If you spend a little bit of time here, you might actually think about what you could highlight. So you could stop the PowerPoint and think, hang on, with this scenario, I would highlight, for example, he obviously works long hours, so he has to be available at day and night. A IT job is often sedentary, and you could make notes on the scenario that you've been given. Think of at least 3 factors from the case study and think about how each of these affects Leroy's health and well-being. Have a go at answering this question. Here I've put an example answer. This answer has taken into consideration Leroy's circumstances and how this could impact Leroy doing any physical activity. So as Leroy works long and unsociable hours, so he has to be basically available day and night. It may be difficult to find time to join exercise classes or to join a sports club or a gym. And by stating his circumstances and the problem with his circumstances, you would have secured 2 marks there. Leroy has a desk job. He works at a computer all day, which is a sedentary job. There's not much movement in his job. It's difficult to incorporate physical activity into his working day as he is needed by his computer. Another 2 marks. And, focusing on the end bit, as he has a disability, some physical activity may be more difficult for him to do. So pay attention to his physical disability and the fact that actually it won't be easy to join a club, or it won't be easy to take up a racket sport or join a football club. He would need to consider the type of sport that would be appropriate for his physical disability. The most important factor you will have to remember here is that you only use the facts that you have been given in the scenario. Don't start making up anything about the individual or assuming that they already attend a club or that they're physically fit. You can't make any guesses. You can only use the facts that have been provided in the scenario. In the exam paper, there will be a complete question, which will involve you having to fill in a table. So for complete questions, you'll need to recommend some ways that an individual's health and well-being could be improved. So you'll be given a scenario. You'll be asked to write up your answers in a table. Each of the 3 actions need to relate to something in the case study. Again, you can't make it up. You must use information that has been provided to you. Then you will need to state how each action would improve the health and well-being of that person in the scenario, making sure that there's a clear link between the action and the ways the actions could improve their health and well-being. We now move on to discuss questions, and these are worth 6 marks. Really, when you have a discussion with people, if you think about a discussion you have in daily lives, you may be thinking about the pros and cons, negatives and positives. And basically, this is what it's asking you to do. You need to consider different ways that a person's circumstances may affect their health and well-being. You can only use the information in the case study. In every point that you make, you've got to use something relevant. Highlight any key information to start with, but don't just copy from the case study. So you don't just say, Loretta is happily married, because that's what it states in the actual STEM, in the actual question. You need to interpret the information and use it to back up any points you have. You should look at a range of factors and include positive and negative effects in your answer. This actually helps to contribute to a good discursive answer. Think about how they are connected. For example, we know that Loretta is 52 years old and she started to experience symptoms such as hot flushes at night, tiredness and hair loss. She's 52, so it's probably the menopause or perimenopause. And you could actually link the age and the symptoms that she has there to come to that conclusion. With discuss questions, you'll get marks for how your answer is written, not just for what you have written. You need to write your answers clearly and in full sentences. Please do not put bullet points. That is like identifying, and you will be marked down for it. You must at all times link to the case study. Here are some final keyword checks for the Component 3 exam. Please remember that a barrier is something unique to the health and social care system that prevents a person accessing the service. And this is where barriers and obstacles get confused. An obstacle is something personal to a person that can stop them moving forward, that makes an action more difficult. Really make sure you understand the difference between both, because you will probably get a question on both. Make sure you are aware that a person-centred approach puts the individual at the centre of the healthcare planning. Formal support is provided by trained, qualified, professional individuals, whereas informal support is often provided by friends, family and relatives, although can be equally as important. You need to think about what type of jobs that someone is, that an informal type of support can provide. For example, they might go get your shopping, pick up your prescription, ring up and book appointments. You need to learn the BMI categories. This is really important. Lifestyle factors are things like smoking, drinking, drugs, exercise, and diets. Please be aware that this question is most likely to appear in a paper. Economic factors includes money, saving, wealth, inheritance, and salary. Lots of people get economic and environmental mixed up. And religion is a cultural factor. Cultural factors are related to the characteristics of a particular group of people, such as their values, customs, beliefs, social habits, and behaviours. Lastly, good luck.